Cowboys fans, welcome into How About Wow Week 8. Breaking Cowboys news once again as we get into the weekend. Trayvon Diggs to IR. We'll break that down for you, plus why the 500 Cowboys are going to go to Denver and come home with a win. Let's do this.
The only thing else I got to say is, how about this, Cowboys? Yeah!
Yes, I'm Gavin Dawson from 105.3 The Fan. With me, as always, my favorite football Neanderthal, New Bear Lesniewski. How the heck you doing this weekend, brother?
Well, I'm just thinking about girth and being girthy after Javonte said they're going to feel my girth. Like, you ever heard that in print? You ever read that in the headline?
No, but I did have a question for you. What would you think if your nickname in high school or college was the Girthquake? Would that be a compliment?
I think it would have to be, unless you were the kid down in Tampa that they won't let play. Unless you were not trying to throw shade, and that's why I didn't say his name. But you know, we had a kid, and I won't say his name either, growing up, where you just look at someone's 23 and me and go, bro, why are you not have a helmet and shoulder pads? Like 6'8", 330, but like athletic and a swimmer and like dainty almost in a way. When you think about something that big being able to move and do things, and then they get like a little toe injury, and you would think they were a ballerina or something, and they couldn't put on the shoes and twirl, and they just, I don't know, it bothers me to no end. But the Girthquake, are we talking about everyone's favorite valedictorian, the hammerhead in the backfield who's going to be an all-pro for the Dallas Cowboys, Javonte Williams?
No, we're talking about the baseball player Rowdy Tellez for the Texas Rangers, who
was here in Pittsburgh too. Okay, yeah, I forgot. Yep.
Yeah. We asked him what he would think of that nickname. He did not appreciate it very much. Do you want to start with Cowboys Broncos, the matchup, or do you want to start with this Trayvon Diggs mystery?
You know why I missed that is because Bob Nutting is such a cheap bastard that he cut Tellez like 5 at bats before he was going to get a $250K bonus in a year when he was like the only guy doing anything on a shit team that they didn't give a shit about. Like, relegate Nutting. I know you're a soccer guy. They should, if you're an owner in any sport and you spend less than what you make at concessions on your roster, they should be able to boot your ass. You asked a question. Do we want to talk about the game, or do we want to talk about what? Or the matchups?
The
or
Trayvon Diggs mystery.
So this mystery is fascinating. You asked a question right before we hopped in here. Like, how bad is the head wound? I mean, that can he not put a helmet on?
Yeah, because the story today, he's going to IR, and it's just like, but why? He was getting ready to play. Stephen Jones joined us yesterday and said he has had, previous injuries. And of course, he's talking about the knee and the microfracture surgery and the torn ACL and everything that goes along with that. And I felt like watching him play, he was on the comeback trail. He was not back from those injuries. So, I mean, to me, it logically makes sense. But trying to go down that rabbit hole and talking with insiders like I have access to throughout the day, they don't feel like that's the case. Like, this isn't, hey, his knee is worse and this is the perfect moment to sort of hit the pause button on his comeback and give him, another month to come back from those, do some rehab, take what he's learned in the first 6 weeks of the season and now try to apply it to the back half after he gets healthy. From what I understand, they at least the insiders believe more details are coming, and maybe this head wound was bad enough that dude can't even put a helmet on right now. A little bit more information. We spoke with Nick Harris of the Star-Telegram yesterday. He said the first time they talked with Diggs after the concussion, he had a wound on his head that Friday. The next time they had a chance to talk to him, dude had a ski mask on to cover everything but his eyes and was sort of, communicating non-verbally with reporters around that he was just not available for interviews. So was he
miming though? Was it wasn't Shedeur Sanders level miming, not in a ski mask, right? He was communicating with his eyes.
Yeah. Apparently, yeah. That's all he was willing to do. And sure, if you have a concussion, you don't want to be talking with the media. And then Brian Schottenheimer talked about it at his press conference and said, we got more information on it, but he's going to leave it for Trayvon Diggs to talk about it first.
Yeah, that was when I started kind of checking out and being like, all right, I'm going to let you and your sources like explore, because I saw comments coming out that were saying, oh yeah, we're going to get all the answers. And then I saw Shotty say, we're going to wait till he wants to come out in front of y'all and speak his piece. And this whole thing started by Jerry saying that he didn't really believe it without saying he didn't really believe it, right? I mean, that was how this thing jumped off, where it was like, he gave us an answer. I guess we're going to accept that, it satisfied whatever it takes for you to be able to go into these protocols. And I think that's what's really interesting right now around the trade deadline is, I said a couple weeks ago that I firmly believe anybody who's close or on the cusp, LeBron James is faking a back injury to avoid all the things that are happening in the NBA world. So, why wouldn't the NFL or any of these guys who are potentially on the move be, above that? And not even at scandal level. I'm just talking about it like, man, if you're not going to bleep up your money going forward for a week, where your team's getting the break speed off them and your hammy's a little tight. Yeah, my hammy's a little tight. Who's questioning that?
So you think this could be Diggs pulling himself out? Like, this isn't really going well. I'm not having a great time trying to fit my skill set into Eberflus's system. I got this concussion now. It's embarrassing. Maybe I want to sit out a month and try to get righter, or I want to sit out and wait for a trade.
All I know is the Diggs getting cuts something like $54 million off their cap, 26, 27, 28.
Yeah.
And all I know is the maths for this dude to have to protect his stash.
Yeah. I could totally see that. At the same time, I have a hard time believing Jerry Jones would be okay with a player getting $1.1, maybe $1.2 million a week for not playing. And when you go on IR, that's your situation. But I have a feeling that a lot more details are going to start to, come forth, make the light of public here, and we'll be able to break it down a little bit more in future shows. The only other thing I thought about was, could this be an insurance play where if you have a player that goes out with injury while they still get their money, you can recoup some cap space? And if that's what the Cowboys are doing, I don't know. Trayvon Diggs is not worth $20 million a year. But I do feel like you are one injury away from being absolutely butt naked back there. And while Trayvon Diggs isn't good, he's better than Kyer Elam. He's better than Kalen Carson. He's better than Triquez Bridges and Reddy Stewart. Like, you only have one corner better than him right now, that being Deron Bland. And I think I'd rather have Diggs than like a day 3 pick, even if I am recouping money. Like, your path to victory is this month allowing Diggs' knee to be better, and for him to come back closer to the version that he was showing you before this injury tragedy started.
Well, there's multiple types of insurance, right? I mean, there's literally the claim, and there's literally how teams insure contracts for injury and the salary cap ramifications. The one that I talked about is the player trying to insure himself from what is most likely to happen. And there's a lot of gray area, and there's a whole lot of stuff. What I will say is I'm not completely, I don't think this is conspiracy level stuff, and I wouldn't decide a hill I'm willing to even go fight on, let alone die on. And I'm saying that because, I played with broken noses. I played with, different elements where, whether you're talking about a contraption getting built into your shoulder pads, visor going into your helmet, I've also had a number of different very acute and almost like weird, which is probably the best word for this situation, injuries or health concerns that occurred when I was an active player myself. And when you go through these things, I think this is why I led with the conspiracy type stuff, or led with some of this maybe being on the player, and would agree or buy into what you're talking about from the team. And where do they kind of meet in the middle to kind of have a handshake agreement where, we all kind of do what's best for both parties and try to work this thing as hard as we can. Is that, how many players do you see from week to week playing with nose piercings, diamond studs in their ears? Like, I feel like so much of this stuff is what the pain threshold is, what the willingness is to be cool, what the ramifications are if I do or do not do this thing. Because right now it's all negative, right? Like, the only negative if you lose some bling, and by the way, a lot of these guys are playing with CZs, like the real ones, like CD, who are out there playing with real jewelry, terrifies me. Could you imagine getting your chain yanked and it's just out there in the turf? I guess at least now it's turf and not grass. So
it happened to Des Bryant about a decade ago.
Right.
Lost an earring on the turf.
Right.
Yeah.
And so
that's the ultimate flex. I got so much damn money. I got $100,000 of jewelry around my neck, and it might break.
0 bleeps given, right?
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying is, like, have you ever tried to even put a helmet on with earrings in?
No.
It's a bitch, dude. Like, and these guys are out there and they're not taping them. They're not doing any. They're just literally. And also, how many helmets do we see come off every week? How many dudes the chin strap is? I mean, it's not a regulatory element. It's a suggestion. Like, look
the mouth
at
guards hanging off the face mask, and wide receivers out there going over the middle.
So I feel like some of this stuff adds up to enough of this stuff adds up to both sides basically agreeing to say, here's the best way to handle this. Because right now there might be a team out there that would give up a 6 or a 7 or do a late round pick swap because they believe there's 11 picks again in that guy. And the only way to hide the knee injury is with something else. And the only way for that to be believable is if it's something that you don't need the eye in the sky or the all 22 to be able to dispute.
Very interesting theory. I like your investigative mind there, Dawson and Newbear here on How About Wow. Let's jump over here. We'll get to Cowboys Broncos in just a second. A couple of other news items. Ed Werder reporting the Cowboys coaching staff is buzzing about how impressive Revel has been in his first week of practice and what he can add when activated before Monday Night Football against the Raiders. I mean, if it was really, I lost you. There you are. If it was really that good, he would be activated already, considering the Trayvon Diggs situation. And what we'd heard is it's going to take some time. I get so annoyed, Newbear, and it's nothing against Ed Werder because I'm sure he's reporting accurately. The coaches are buzzing. But to me, when coaches are buzzing, it means they like you or they're trying to protect your confidence, usually both. It's very rarely, oh my God, this guy is just totally destroying practice, and you won't be able to believe what your eyes are telling you when he gets out on the football field. We heard the same shit about Mozzie Smith, and it's usually when media and fans start asking and the volume gets turned up that they're like, oh, I don't want my guy hearing this stuff in the media. Let me put this out there for him. So I don't believe Revel is close to ready, and I really have doubts about him stepping in as a rookie. So that just goes to you can't let Trayvon Diggs go for cheap.
Well, I mean, especially because how many weeks are we into the season? 8, which means we're 10 weeks or so from when we were out in Oxnard. Dude, he was not anywhere close to being ready when we were out in Oxnard. I mean, he was working hard, and I'm talking about Revel. He was working hard and he was taking and I know what that's like. Like when you're coming off of something like this. And
let me jump in here real quick, because that video that we watched and talked about that Tommy Yarish posted where he came down awkwardly. They told us no setback. He's fine. Just this week, our sources indicated that they have acknowledged, yes, that was a setback, and that's why he's 13 months out from ACL, still not back yet.
Yeah, that was weird, man, because it was clear, and we said this on the air at the time. Yeah, it was clear he didn't trust it, and I know what that's like, and short of being at practice and watching him run and jump, I think that's the thing too. Is like everyone just assumes, okay, so you run 4.3. And then they fix the knee and you can run faster, just like with Tommy John, right? You throw 98, you blow out your elbow, they fix the elbow, now you're throwing 100. And it's like, yeah, man, everything's good, nothing to see here. The linear stuff isn't the problem. The problem is when you leap and you have to land. It's the down-to-down trust of, fuck, this guy's going to have a two-way go, and I got to be able to plant and chase no matter what he does. That's hard enough when you're whole. When something inside of you breaks, and the last time they put you on TV, you jumped and you felt like you were leaking. Like from the inside out, something inside of you was rolling around. That puts doubt in there until, and not just one time, but until you remove it again and again and again. And you know what's crazy about this is we might not find out until it's under NFL game action.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And then you got to consider how rusty is he, not just coming back from an injury, but not playing football, and then just being a rookie. It's just so difficult to step in. Only the special ones step in and look like they belong from day one. I do want to throw this in there before we get to Cowboys Broncos previewing. The Raiders have not traded Maxx Crosby. I know a lot of people got butt cracked on this one. NFL drop. I would say if you see anything on social media, maybe even including a headline from us, and you're like, wait, is this real? Just Google it real quick. You don't need to get wrapped up in talking about something like it's happened. I think more than ever with social media being monetized and people able to get a check off of retweets, likes, and engagement, it's basically like you got to look at it like an old school reporter where you essentially need two credible sources that you recognize to believe something is true in today's day and age.
Yeah, and what's crazy about it is, and I've commented on this. I'm going to keep commenting on it. Like, you can say, and it's well within your purview to say this isn't Madden. True, and you can talk about how real life works or does not work certain ways. Everything is different now because so much has changed with the way particularly younger analytics driven GMs and front office staff are looking at the salary cap and evaluating player value. And like you talk about all the time with the Eagles selling stake in the team to buy Super Bowl trophies, or at least give yourself a chance to really and truly go compete for them when your stock is up. And like when you unpack this thing about Maxx Crosby, it's a deal that should get done. It's a deal that should get done in Dallas.
And it's not dead. It could very well happen. Yeah.
It damn sure should be a deal that gets done for someone. It should be Dallas at the front of that line. And oh, by the way, why are we here? Jerry and Steven said for years they weren't going to trade Micah.
Yeah.
Then they did. And then they got raked over the coals for what they got for him. So think about that.
Yeah, and they said it. I mean, Jerry was on 105 through the Fan Friday morning talking about, I don't need to pick up the phone and call people asking for a trade. I just do it in the media. He's letting everybody know they're open for business, and they don't just want a defensive player. They want an impact defensive player. So Maxx Crosby, not dead, should be the most fun week we've had on the Fan and on this podcast covering the NFL trade deadline ever. That's where we are with today's NFL and with the Cowboys' sense of urgency that they are feeling. Okay, Denver Broncos. Why am I confident Cowboys are going to go up there as like a field goal dog and get the win? I just don't think Denver's that good. And before they went on this 3 or 4 game winning streak, a lot of people agreed, but I think they're closer to the Cleveland Browns than they are to the top of the AFC. They're 4-2 in one-score games, and as we all know, every quarterback in NFL history is about 500, except for the special ones. A guy like Tom Brady is going to be better in one-score games over the course of his career, almost without fail, though. Any other team that has a high winning percentage in those one-score games is a fraud. And when it comes to the AFC West, when it comes to the conference, that's how I'm looking at Denver going into this game. I'm just not buying their record, and 7 games in, salute to them. It's not easy to be 5-2. It's not easy to win games in the NFL, but I mean, the stats say the Broncos defense is generational. They rank first in completion percentage allowed, third down defense, red zone defense, and sacks per game. But the Colts had their way with them. Daniel Jones. The Giants had their way with them. Jackson Dart, crazy finish to that game. Broncos end up winning it, but they lost to the Chargers, who scored 23. But other than that, it's a lot of getting to play Cam Ward, Jake Browning, the Eagles at the depth of their struggles, and Justin Fields. Half of their games have been against really poor quarterbacks. That's 4 of the worst offenses in the entire NFL. Saquon Barkley is broken, my man. So I just don't think you can believe what the stats and the record are telling you about this Denver Broncos team right now.
One of my least favorite stats are like the all-time ones, because aren't they like 4-9 all-time in Denver? They haven't played there.
Cowboys haven't went up there in 35 years.
They haven't played there since 2021. I think it's 20. Didn't they win in 95? Didn't they beat them in the Super Bowl year in 95? That
was in Dallas, and that's 30 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm a journalism guy for a reason. I can't do any of the math. All kidding aside, 4-9 all time, and looking at some of the breakdowns of some of the things, like think about how different the world is between 73. Think about how different it is even since 2021, the last time they played, right? And when you unpack over time, historically, I will say this. You know what's really hard is to go find somebody who's given Pat Surtain hell, and you go, okay, why is that the case? And you go, how much help did a guy like Keenan Allen have, or DeAndre Hopkins, or Devontae Adams, or like you go look at some of the names like that he's shut down, and you go, yeah, but like what else was opposite that dude? Like Cheetah has some interesting numbers, not like touchdown crazy, but just like 21 of 29 for 260 and a tutty in 4 games. And even the reason I'm bringing that up is because 21 of 29 alone is hard to do. I think Cooper Kupp is another guy more recently who's like in that realm, like 20 for 30 or 25 for 35 or somewhere in there. And then there's always like the pop-up dude, like a Mac Hollins has a day. And you go like, wait a minute though. That was like now. Like this dude, when you catch him sleeping, which isn't very often, and that's why he got paid, and that's why he's all pro 1, and that's why he's on his way to gold jacket status. He's never had to line up against this level of 1 and 2. Like when we talk about the buddy cop movie, the co-wide receiver 1, like George Pickens was the best wide receiver in the league while CeeDee Lamb was out. CeeDee Lamb is one of the best receivers in the league, period. There is no conversation when these two dudes are healthy. I will see you, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. I will see you, Jefferson and Addison. I will see you, Devontae Smith running with A.J. Brown. Like there is Puka and Devontae. There is no two better than these two.
And last year with Pittsburgh, obviously a much inferior offense and a much inferior quarterback. George Pickens only had 2 catches for 27 yards, but there was like a 38-yard pass interference. Yeah. There was a holding call that took back a touchdown. I think if you added all up, George Pickens could have easily had 100 yards against Pat Surtain. And then you look at Riley Moss, the opposite corner, and he has – I think he's given up less than 50% completion rate, which makes you go, oh, wow. But that's kind of like cherry picking a stat. Riley Moss will give up deep balls, and the chunk play against Denver is there. If they can run it, play action over the top, this Broncos team could absolutely be had. Their linebacker play, their safety play has not taken away the seam routes either. So let me be clear before I disrespect them too much, because this is still a pretty good defense. The game does really hinge on the ability to protect Dak Prescott. And watching that Giants game last week with Broncos, it was amazing how frequently they got to dart as he was at the bottom of the top of his drop. Like, you have to be ready as Dak Prescott, I think, to move up. And obviously the 2 guards in your center are going to be big here. Cooper Beebe still not playing, but Dak has done really well against pass rushers all season long. And I think he can continue to do that against Benito and Cooper. The stat to look for, though, is Prescott's passer rating is 30 points lower in games in which he's taken multiple sacks. And they haven't won any of those games so far. So to me, that's really what it hinges on. But can you run it against them? That's another monster key. The last time the Broncos faced a top-tier run game, Jonathan Taylor hit him for $160. So there's all sorts of holes you can poke at this Broncos defense compared to what they look like on paper.
Yeah, the big thing though is they're going to turn around and say the same damn thing, and what you almost instantly become terrible of is like, is this the game that we all the nation gets introduced to RJ Harvey? Like, is this the game that Dobbins and Harvey finally become Ingram and Kamara and every other, Reggie Bush and every other, incarnation of nightmare fuel from New Orleans that you had in a backfield under Sean Payton? And then you go, okay, none of these receivers, even Cortland Sutton, scare you that much, except he's a pro's pro who got paid because he can do all the things, and you don't have a guy who's going to just body him and take him out of play so he could just be dunking on dudes all night. And then they have this like just cacophony, this litany, this insert your favorite big word that's actually an annoying negative term for the Franklins and the Mimses and all these dudes who can pop off at any given time in any given week. And then Bo Nix finds them in a fourth quarter when they throw up 33 in a comeback on the day that they hang Demaryius Thomas in the Ring of Honor, right? Where like, because he was 33 years old when he passed. And it's like the football gods they don't just, have a wicked sense of humor, right? Sometimes they know that we all need to heal, on the
But you're
field.
talking about like a miracle happening almost, or an ideal situation. And I would counter by saying, yes, Dobbins and Harvey can get you 2 out of the last 3 weeks. This Cowboys defense has really been good against the Jets and then against the Commanders. And you could poke holes in that and say, well, you beat Fields and Daniels didn't have his 2 top guys. But we were in a world a month ago talking about it doesn't matter how bad your offense is, you can hang 30 on the Cowboys. And I think they have done a great job at least challenging that narrative here in recent weeks.
I think what I'm trying to say, and I'll be way more succinct about it in this instance, the Broncos, in my opinion, don't have a clear-cut go-to guy at any level of their team beyond the quarterback. The quarterback that I have been high on since his daddy was cheering him on at his alma mater at Auburn, and that odyssey started, and then he just stayed in college forever, and everyone shit on him and said he didn't have this or didn't have that, and he took the league by storm after some early bumps in the road, including here in Pittsburgh, and has really, for the most part, just proved that he's got the cojones. What do you call him all the time? Church bells. How many times you see Russell Wilson looking like a dog, a wet dog come in from a storm that got kicked on his way to the bench? Bo Nix ain't having that. Bo Nix ain't playing with Sean Payton like that. Like, Bo Nix has all the things that you want in your developing, not developmental, but your developing star quarterback. They don't have one dude anywhere else where you're like, this is where we're going to go hang our hat and we have to take this thing out or we lose this game. They just have a bunch of B pluses, and Sean Payton's genius to the point where you go, okay, so if we don't have to stop anyone, how do we stop everyone?
Yeah, I don't think I'm as high on Bo Nix as you are. I think he is a developing average quarterback, but he's got toughness, he's got intangibles, and he can win games. I totally agree with your point, though. They don't have enough weapons around him to make him dangerous if you can stop the run. If you can stop the Broncos run, they might not score 15 points on you.
I think you know what it is? I just have so much fucking scar tissue because we made Bryce Young perfect, literally 11 for 11, perfect quarterback rating in pressure scenarios. And that dude is going to sit, whether he's healthy or not, against Andy Dalton, to the Red Rifle again. Like that's the world we're living in, where 40 points in a tie when Micah Parsons comes home, in the Bears running flea flickers badly and just dunking on the goalposts. Like, I am so, and I don't want to be, me, I do not want to be here. I want Deron Bland to come out and take one the other way again. I want the variance they showed with the 47% man and everything that we got last week. Easy's going to get home again. I think it's the scar tissue, Red Hot Chili Peppers style, which was on every burn CD.
Yeah. I mean, this team's lost to the Bears and the Panthers over the last 5 weeks. I think it's totally fair to be pessimistic about this, but it is Dak Prescott against Bo Nix, and that's massive advantage. Massive advantage, Cowboys. And I do feel like I want to knock on wood a little bit before I say this one, but they're on a historic streak of not turning the ball over and Dak throwing 3+ touchdowns per game.
Announcer jinx. Hey, as long as there isn't a camera cord, as long as there isn't a drone flying. Have you seen the poor Will Reichert? I mean, they've got the announcers lying about it on air, like the kickers hitting the cables and missing kicks because of it. So as long as there isn't one of those on the field and we don't end up with a tip 6, if you will, what you just said, I don't believe in the announcers drink, whether it's free throws or field goals or anything in between. It's the whole thing is ridiculous. Although,
yeah,
if the mob's really running the NBA, maybe not.
Well, speaking of the mob in the NBA, I mean, you play poker long enough, you'll see enough 4%ers, 8%ers hit against you on the turn in the river that you'll get a real thorough understanding of how probabilities and randomization works. But next reason to believe the Cowboys are going to go up to Denver and get a win. I think the emotional win they had, even though Sean Payton has tried to turn it into a coaching opportunity, try to create it like a vibe. Like,
you mean by driving the team around the city like they were in high school?
Yeah. He's trying to make them hungry, and I get it but he knows teams almost always come out flat. And in the NFL, where parity rules, you can get an advantage if you draft a team or you spend more money or you have a Hall of Fame quarterback. But week in and week out, it often comes down to who wants it the most and who is most focused, who has the best game plan. And I thoroughly believe after a win like that, here's another poker analogy. It's hard to go from final tabling in a poker tournament to sitting down in the next tournament that's going to take you 8 hours.
Oh, so you're saying they're going to take Dallas lightly and get run the bleep over?
I just think it's hard as a human being to get up again, right? And that's why Michael Jordan would make up stuff about what the opposition had said, because he knew he had to play tricks with his brain to be motivated 82 nights a year.
Yeah, that's a great freaking point. The Mile High Club is gonna help hold them up, though. That crowd, especially if it's back and forth, and especially if they get out, even more so, I guess, if they get out to any kind of early stuff where they're pinning their ears back. There's a lot to like about their defense, and there's a lot. It's easy to root for. You watch them play, you put on the tape. I mean, they just got guys, and they play together. It's connected. It's tethered. The thing about the offense, though, is Bo Nix might run around and he might throw a laser cannon rocket ball that ends up as the number one play of the week. He also might throw one to the other team.
Oh, yeah. Might throw a couple to the other team. Okay, my final angle, and I know we're going late here, but I wanted to get your thoughts on Javonte Williams. The Cowboys love this guy, not just the organization, but the team. I mean, he's super smart. He's kind of a quiet leader. And you have him going back to Denver. He downplayed it this week, saying it's just another game. But how could it be? He also said the offseason didn't go the way he wanted it to. He wanted to stay in Denver. And Sean Payton, who's no stranger to talking not spicy, but maybe just inconsiderate about his former players, he told Cowboys reporters around the time of the signing, Javonte Williams does not have what it takes to be a workhorse back. I think the Cowboys rally around Javonte. I think Shoddy makes a big deal out of it, and they're going to go out there with an emotional edge that might be enough to mitigate, neutralize, minimize the Broncos' home field advantage. And, of course, Colorado is one of the favorite vacation spots of Texans. Don't be surprised if there are a number of Cowboys fans in there that could make it uncomfortable for the Broncos offense as well at times late in the game.
Well, real quick, you talk about mitigating things. I want to mitigate a couple of comments in terms of talking about Bo Nix throwing the ball to the other team. I know he's only got 4 picks this year in his career. His career interception percentage, I believe, is a tick better than Dak's, where like Aaron Rodgers, who's the all-time leader ever, is up near 3. He's like 2.9 this year, and Bo Nix is under 2 for his career and under 2 for sure this year. I think he's like 1.5. But when you spin that back around, one of the other reasons I'm bringing that back up is numbers matter until they don't, right? Like it mattered that Javonte Williams was slowing down when there weren't these crazy holes, or he's getting caught from behind, or not breaking tackles at the same rate, not having the same rush success, yards per carry, everything that goes into making a great back, or any way that you want to try to make a great case. What changed? The only real thing that changed was time. Like, no one questioned his work ethic. No one said he wasn't rehabbing. No one said he wasn't in shape. No one said he wasn't tough as a bag of nails. Like, everything about this kid, what changed? Time. What else changed? Scheme. What else changed? Variance within that scheme. Like, he's in a position now to be able to say the types of things in the big 72-point font and then deliver on it, because not just because he believes in the team, but because the team is playing to his strengths and using his strengths to play off of CD and GP, so that after you had to just go run 70 yards to get a PI, here comes the hammer and the nail that we just talked about in a bag. Chew on that.
Yeah, turnover-worthy play percentage, man. Bo Nix going to take care of that football. Dak's killing it this year, 1.7% turnover-worthy play. Bo Nix, 2.1%. There's 32 quarterbacks in the NFL that have a higher turnover-worthy play percentage than Bo Nix. That's a great point.
The reason I was bringing that up, though, is because even going back to Auburn and through Oregon, so when you watch, like, why didn't they win a natty? Like, why didn't they figure it out? Like, his dad was royalty, and they had, he was such a ballyhooed recruit at Auburn, and then all the machinations at Oregon, and buddy, 10-7 last year, and man, were they an interesting squad to look at with him growing as a rookie and becoming like a really interesting, quarterback for so many reasons. You watch him run around, and it's like the turbo button got stuck. And what I'm saying is when it's not Jordan Love or another quarterback who's been in a 40-40 tie or squared off against Dak Prescott and the rest of these guys with a star on their helmet, and it's back and forth and it's up and down. Like, Dallas is prepared to continue answering. Denver has come back in a big way, but not at this level against someone who's playing at the level of D4K.
Yeah, where he wants to be. It's a huge opportunity for the Cowboys. You win this game, move to 4-3-1 2 weeks after dropping to 2-3-1 in that horrible loss to Carolina. Then you get Arizona, then you get a bye, then you come back for the Raiders in Monday Night Football. You win this, it opens the door to 6-3-1 with the trade deadline snuggled there in the middle. Things could get real fun around here in a hurry. But is the offense good enough to go smack around Denver like I think? Leave your thoughts down below. Like the video if you want to see the Cowboys go up there and get the dub. If you are liking the channel, the number one thing you can do for us is subscribe. But after that, the likes, they help us with distribution so much. And if you do that for us, we'll keep the content cranking. For New Bear, I'm Gavin Dawson. We'll see you next time on How About